United States Senate, Marco came to me, and quite honestly, I didn't know Marco that well. His opponent I knew very well, and I knew I couldn't support his opponent. And so when Marco started campaigning, nobody gave him a chance. This was about a year ago. He knocked on doors. He went to small county Lincoln Day dinners. I know because I represent some small counties that had Lincoln Day dinners that Marco showed up at. But what he did was he had a loud and clear message that he has a vision for the future of our country. His vision he'll tell you about. But let me tell you, at one point people said to me, well, you supported Governor Christ when he first ran. Why aren't you supporting him now? And my comment was, Marco Rubio's not afraid to stand up for the things that he believes in. I like his opponent. Don't get me wrong, I am not bashing his opponent, but I want somebody there who's going to be strong and who's going to represent our great state of Florida. Yeah. And I believe that that man, and I believed it a year ago when nobody else in Congress except for one other member did. And that gentleman, let me present to you, please give a big Villages welcome to the man who's going to be the next Senator, Marco Rubio.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for that kind of introduction. I'm honored you guys would come out tonight before we leave. Don't worry, we don't drive with that thing on the window. But I'm just grateful to be here, and I'm honored. This was great. I mean, to do Sean Hannity's show is now I made it. I know I made it when you're on Sean Hannity's show. It was fantastic. And to do it at the Villages, no less, a place that we've been coming to actually for years for different events, and then came here back in August or September. Spoke in front of 300. I don't know if any of you were here that day, but that really, I'll never forget. I took pictures of that event and put them on my phone, and I showed them to my wife, and she said, what were you guys giving away for free? And I said, no, they came to hear me speak, and they liked it, and so that was good. Look, I'm honored to be running for the U.S. Senate. Women, that's right, the Conservative Women's event. When was that? Back in... Twice. Well, there you go. This campaign has been so rewarding so far for a lot of different reasons. But one of the reasons I love coming back to the Villages, and I say this, I just said this to the press that was interviewing me, is because every time I come here, I get to interact with people that understand the things that made America great. That inherited from their parents, from your grandparents, the greatest country in the history of the world, and you know what? You made it even greater. And you left your children and grandchildren with the greatest country in America in the history of the world. And now we are being asked to choose once again whether we want America to continue to be exceptional, or are we prepared for America to become just like every other country? That's what this election is about. This election is a fundamental choice between what kind of country we want to have. Do we want to continue to be exceptional, or do we want to become like everybody else?
Exceptional!
Well, if we want to be exceptional, then we have to make some difficult choices. Yep. About what role government's going to play in our economy and in our lives. Are we prepared to reform our tax code so that it once again encourages job creation and economic development? Are we prepared to deal with the national debt, the discretionary spending, and the entitlement programs that, if they're not reformed, will bankrupt those programs and ultimately bankrupt America? Are we prepared for the very simple notion that when America is the strongest country in the world is a safer place? These may sound like simple things, but they're important, and not too many people want to deal with it. And more troubling is that I believe that the people in charge of American government today, this president and this administration, have it wrong. They are taking this country in a direction that not only do we not agree with, but we believe they are taking us in a direction that if we continue on will rob us of all the things that make America exceptional. And the reason why I'm running for the U.S. Senate is simple. I know that in this race, I'm the only candidate that you can trust to go to Washington, D.C. and stand up to this agenda and in its place offer a very clear alternative. And that's important. You can't just be the opposition. You have to be the alternative. And I hope to be part of that alternative. I hope to join people like Congresswoman Brown-Waite, being a clear alternative on a daily basis in Washington, D.C. It's not a choice between being stimulus or nothing at all. There was a better way that didn't involve wasting $800 billion of our children and our grandchildren's money. And on multiple issues, it's not about not doing anything on health insurance accessibility. It's about doing something that wouldn't grow the national debt by over $2 trillion over 10 years, which is what this plan will do. That's what this campaign is about. That's what this tour is about. That's why we call it Take a Stand. It's about taking a stand on important public policy issues, because that's what this election is about. This election is not about me, and it's not about my opponents. It's about you. And it's about your children and your grandchildren and the country they deserve to inherit from us. I know it's getting later and it's going to be dark soon, so let me just close by saying this. Most elections are a choice between Republicans or a Democrat, a choice between a liberal and a conservative. This election's about much more than that. This is a referendum about our very identity, as I said earlier, and it's as important as any decision this country has ever made. I know that if we make the right choices, I know that if we deal with our tax code in a responsible way, I know that if we reform it and simplify it and create pro-growth strategies, I know that if we're serious about reducing our national debt, I know if we take serious this global war, that's what it is, a global war on terrorism, I know that if we do these things, our children and grandchildren will grow up to be the most prosperous Americans ever. But if we fail, then they will be the first Americans to inherit a diminished nation. And you and I will be the first Americans to leave our children worse off than we were ourselves. That's an unacceptable outcome, and that's what this election is about, is reversing course on those things and getting it right so that the American dream survives at least one generation more. Thank you for having me here. I'm grateful. Thank you.